Okay, welcome. This is the Tuesday, December 6th regular meeting of the North Shore Board of Fire Commissioners. We'll now come to order, and our first order of business will be roll call.
Good evening, Commissioner Admin,
Here.
Commissioner Pratt,
Present.
Commissioner Byers,
Present.
Commissioner Webster,
Here.
Commissioner Woolham, here, Chief Cowan,
Here.
Legal Counsel Matt Paxton,
Here.
and I'm Board Secretary Amy Oakley.
All right, thank you, Amy. Item number 2, public comment.
No advanced requests.
I think
but-
Mr. Marin has had his hand raised there.
Oh, okay, so you'll just need to unmute Mr. Marin, and you'll have 3 minutes to make your comment.
Thank you. I noticed on the agenda tonight is the consideration of a request I made regarding my public records. And I just want to briefly state that while I was a fire commissioner last year, the board was advised that the 2018 fire commissioner audit recordings made by Commissioner Valinda had been lost. I recently filed a public records request for these recordings, and happily Don Killian found the recordings and provided them to me. I'm asking that these audio recordings be added to the AV capture meeting minutes for 2018. This will assure the recordings are available to any interested party. I also ask that the board assure that the 2018 meeting recordings are part of the Department of Records to assure that they will be properly archived with the state of Washington. One additional request, when I looked at the website, and I know there's been a lot of transition over to the Shoreline website, you have the PDFs of the meeting minutes first, and then way down below is the AV capture link. I think it'd be more appropriate to have the AV capture link ahead of the PDFs for the meeting minutes so people can find them. Other than that, thank you for and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
All right, thank you, Mr. Marin, for your comments, and we'll take that into, we'll be discussing this as item 4.1. Okay, oh, sorry, another public comment, thank you. Stacy V.
Good evening, just got in on time. I wanted to ask, I know I had brought it up for a couple years now about the annex building that's on 170th that's been being used for storage. And I knew that it came to the council yet again to extend that agreement. And to me and to a lot of residents, as you had heard early on, it would be important to get something that actually is active on that corner, whether it be an aid car. Ask if businesses in the area would like to rent it and maybe have like a consignment type for local businesses. It could be split, 4 ways, a youth center, or affordable housing. There's just so many opportunities to make that corner usable, and it's outside of the scope of storage. So I'm hoping that you will take it to heart and possibly only give the 6-month extension and use the other 6 months to do an evaluation on the building, and then get something in there that'll enhance our community, because this is a great opportunity to do so. And I appreciate everything you do, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Stacy. And in fact, I'm going to ask that Chief Cowan and possibly Commissioner Admin respond to that statement.
Sure. We have extended the lease for that building only through the end of next year. And it seemed very clear from the city of Kenmore that the permit would likely not be renewed after next year. Our plan is to, and even before all of this, our plan was early this next year to evaluate the potential future needs of that site, and whether or not there was a need anytime in the future for it to be active, either with an aid car, peak aid car, or maybe even an engine or cross-staffed apparatus. My feeling is that it's very difficult to get land. And so I would not want to release the interest in that unless we absolutely knew, like over the next 30 or 40 years even, that it was not going to be needed for future fire response apparatus of some sort. if that is the case, then the board, we can discuss about what we want to do with the land, as far as disposing of it or whatever. If we are gonna keep the structure beyond next year, we will need to allocate some funds to it because it is in some state of disrepair as well. So I've already discussed this with Chief Taylor, our DC of Support Services, and Chief Hochstein, who's going to be transitioning here end of this month, early next month, that in February, it needs to be our priority for him to start evaluating it for future growth and future, potential response needs. And then I'll be able to hopefully, report back. My goal is by hopefully April or May at the latest to be able to report back to the board as to what the future holds for that structure, and then we can discuss what we're going to do with it. But our renter does know that it is not going to be extended beyond next year. So we're committed to the end of next year, and then beyond that is certainly something that we can discuss.
Thank you, Chief. Anything to add to that?
Not really. The only thing I would add is that I had a Kenmore citizen reach out to me asking about what was the future of the property and expressing some neighbor concerns about the property, wanting to know what's going to happen with it. They were advocating potentially for some sort of like a passive recreation use, or maybe like a garden, community garden or something like that. So I just put that resident in touch with Chief Cowan and just let him know that it's on the docket for discussion.
Yeah, I have had some conversations with him and with the city of Kenmore too, as to what their interests are as well.
This discussion's been ongoing since I've been a commissioner. One thing that we need to be aware of is that it's zone residential, and that has a specific relief to have a fire station there, but commercial use is not a use for that property. So probably a garden or something like that would be a use, but the city was pretty particular about that.
Right.
No businesses to go in there to speak of. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Webster. Commissioner Admin. All right. Item number 3 is the approval of the agenda. And before we approve the agenda, I would like to make a friendly amendment that we add item 4.2, which would be the commissioner clothing stipend. Okay. Any objections to the agenda as amended?
Okay, I'll make a motion that we accept the agenda as amended.
I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
I
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, item 4.1, discussion of former Commissioner Marin's records request. And so former Commissioner Marin provided a pretty good outline. I don't know if you all followed, but we got a request that some recordings of meetings during 2018 be added to AV capture. This was at a time before it was department procedure, or board procedure to record meetings and then post them. So I did a little sleuthing. I reached out to Mr. Paxton. I reached out to Don Killian and Amy to just try to figure out what was happening at that time. And so as far as I can discern, based on meeting minutes from that time and from what Mr. Paxton was able to find, is that there was a motion in late 2018 that advised then Chief Torpin to acquire rights to, or contract with AV Capture to record meetings. It was never put into policy, nor was there ever a resolution, at least that I was able to find, that directed those recordings to be published on AV Capture on the internet. Okay, there is a proposed policy revision to policy 1450. It's called 1451, which suggested that they should be published online for a period of 24 months. But that resolution, or that was never passed. So we do have 4 years of standing practice of putting meeting recordings online, but it's not policy, and it was never passed as a resolution as well. So bring it to you guys to open for discussion. We can make a decision tonight, or we can, if you need more time to think about it and ponder it and research, we could postpone the decision until early in 2023.
May I ask what the significance is of 2018?
So at the time, the board was not recording meetings.
Okay.
Then Commissioner Verlinda created his own recordings. Those recordings were misplaced, mishandled. I don't know what the nature of it. I wasn't on the board at the time, but in the process of former Commissioner Verlinda's laptop being turned in, they found those recordings in cloud storage.
Okay.
And so they are, copy of them were provided to Dave Marin. Copy of them are in storage with the department. And so that's where that's at.
Okay.
Yeah. Any follow-up questions?
So, yeah, so my follow-up would be, that I still guess I'm not understanding why we would want to publish something from 2018. We're now 2022, so I guess I'm not, was there something going on that somebody wants a record of, or I just don't understand why that would be significant now, this many years later.
I'm not sure either.
Okay,
Let's let Commissioner Admin weigh in, and then maybe we could let Dave respond to that. Okay. Commissioner
So,
Admin?
yeah, well, so I just, listening to you, it sounds like the scope of our discussion is actually more than just former Commissioner Marin's record request. The scope of our discussion is actually whether we should have, I mean, it sounds like we have a practice of providing recorded minutes. Do we need to formalize that, is what I hear you saying also?
I agree. There's two pieces to this. One, do we post the recordings from 2018? And two, I feel like we need to make our policy reflect our current practice. And so the policy needs to be revised if we value continuing to post those recordings online.
So that should probably be a item that we bring up as a resolution in the future meeting. And keep this discussion
Is limited to the scope of what was brought up.
about it. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
part
agree.
of it.
But I don't have any, I think it's a best practice. I don't have any objection to it. I think it provides a good service, because anybody who wants to later learn what happened at the meetings, it's certainly valuable. So I would suggest let's add that to maybe our agenda at a subsequent meeting. And I don't think there's any rush on it, since we're already following the practice.
But good to have our practice align with our policies. So, yeah.
I'll comment. Are you done? Sure. Did one. I think that there was recordings that Commissioner Rick Belinda did has had a lot of, it followed the meeting, so we've already published part of it. I think it just stays consistent with what we have, what we're doing, showing all of our audios up to that point from wherever we started that's posted now. I have no objection to putting them on. They've been in the department's possession. They've never been not in the possession. So they are part of our records.
Mhm.
And I don't have a problem with them being posted on,
Okay.
on a account. That's my feeling.
I'm just curious, is there any downside to posting them? Is it like a financial impact, any legal complications? to it or
So
anything?
let's do this. That's a great question. And I reached out to Mr. Paxton to confirm that there wasn't a conflict, but I would like to have Dave Marin respond to Commissioner Wallum's question, and then have Mr. Paxton address the legal side of it. Mr. Marin?
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, if you could repeat your question, I'm not quite sure what what I need to clarify. But I would, before that, maybe I can, this will help. I contacted AV Capture both last year and more recently this year. And adding the meeting recordings is a simple matter of creating a new meeting, taking the MP3 file for the recording and marrying it with the agenda. And they said they'd help us if we needed help, and I'm sure that Amy has all the skills necessary to do that. And I would guess maybe it would take an hour or so of her time to do that. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I think the root of Commissioner Woolham's question was the motivation for posting recordings from meetings that are now almost 5 years old. When the direction of the policy that we found a suggested policy 1451, I think in some emails that Chief Torpin sent at the time, and the meeting recordings were to last for a maximum of 24 months. So those meetings from January, February of 2018, five years old at this point. So what value do you think that they present? Why would we need to post those?
Well, the entire contract with AV Capture was an effort by the board to be transparent and provide the public the best possible access to our meeting information as possible. And the board didn't accept a 24-month limitation on posting those meeting minutes, because with AV Capture, there's no additional cost for keeping those on board for a lengthy period of time. Because of the way we do business, we're nowhere close to our cloud storage maximum for what we pay. And I just think because we have the meeting recordings, we have the meeting minutes, taking an hour to marry those up so people can actually listen to the meeting. If you look at record retention, not a lot of people will go back to that period of time and look at those. But I have personal experience where there were questions asked, and those recordings were extremely valuable, would have been extremely valuable in answering those questions, but because they disappeared for a time, we weren't able to use those for that. So I just think it's an easy thing to do, and it's good for the public transparency, and I don't see a downside. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you.
And there's no ulterior motive to putting these on. It's just, completes the practice that we really started back in 2018.
Mr. Paxton, would you address the legal side of those recordings being posted?
Yeah, so I guess the preliminary question is whether or not these were recorded in compliance with the law. I've determined that they certainly are. The public meetings can be recorded, and although Washington is a two-party consent state for recording private conversations, that would not apply to these recordings. So we have these public records. They are public records, so people can request them through Public Records Act. We're also subject to certain record retention requirements for these documents, but there's nothing in the law that would require you or really prevent you from posting these recordings online. It's totally within your discretion. I wasn't able to clearly identify the intent of the board back in 2019 when they were discussing this. I think Commissioner Pratt did a great job of explaining what we were able to kind of reconstruct, since neither of us were part of the organization at that time. But I wouldn't have concerns with you posting them. I wouldn't have concerns with you not posting them. It's really a board discretion at this point.
Mr. Paxton, I think I read that the laws concerning record retention for local government last 6 years. Is that correct?
Yes, it depends on what is in those recordings, and I honestly haven't listened to every single one of them, but I would suspect that 6 years would be a standard, would be the period of time that's required. It might be shorter for certain recordings. many times before you destroy these records, you would send them to state archives. And the state archives would then review them to make sure that there's no further retention value. But since the meeting minutes are your official records of what happened at these meetings, the recordings probably would pass through the auditor's office and be destroyed, or the archives office and be destroyed.
Right, any other questions, comments, thoughts?
I personally, I don't see a problem with doing it. I just wondered, I was just curious about what the beginning of that was, so.
Yeah.
I think if Amy has the time and it's not a big deal to marry those up.
Commissioner Admin, thoughts?
I don't see any issues with it.
Expressed your position.
I believe
Yep.
transparency is my.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't see any reason to not have them on there.
Okay, all right. Chair would accept the motion.
I'll make the motion that we marry up the recordings with the AV capture.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And aye. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your time, Mr. Marin.
Thank you.
Okay, item 4.2, the board clothing stipend. Within the upcoming budget, we have allotted $150 per commissioner for clothing stipend. I don't think we've had it up until this point, but it's possible that it has existed and we just haven't been utilizing it. Okay, it was in there. Okay, excellent. This is probably a good time to note too that Commissioner Wong was elected as secretary of the King County Board of Commissioners. All right, congratulations. And as such, she's seeking some clothing that is going to exceed the $150 limit. And so to keep things above board, it'd be good for us to, at this point, kind of discuss and either give permission or not give permission, deny permission, I guess, for exceeding the, I think it's about
350 to 400.
so.
What do you?
It's one jacket that's double layered, and I wanted to make sure emblems put on there. Just until I feel like I'm representing us, and I know we're very small, but I still want to be seen since we're there. So
this would be a one-time shot. Then?
yes.
I don't have a problem with that.
She can have my 150.
That's kind of what I'm saying.
Right.
We all have uniforms already.
These crosses.
Commissioner Admin, any-
So do we need a motion or what do we need to do?
yeah, just like give everyone an opportunity to weigh in and then we can make a motion.
Fine, there's not obligated to wear them.
You're only buying the one for yourself, right?
Correct.
All right, yeah, motion would be great.
I move that we accept Commissioner Williams' request to increase the budget for her jacket.
Excellent.
Seconded.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, seeing no further discussion, we'll take a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And aye. All right, unanimous.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
One
Chief.
suggestion I would have is if there are items that are going to be expensive, that are going to exceed the $150 value next fall when we're developing the budget for 2024. If you want to keep that in mind, if you want to increase it, doesn't mean you have to spend it all, but it's to avoid this kind of situation.
I think we're
Please
pretty
let me
good
know.
because so the rest of us are not using that. So we're
Yeah,
still
I mean-
staying within our budget. And I think we're doing well, but bring it before the board is correct action.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Board resolutions, none. Item number 6, consent agenda.
I make a motion, we accept the consent agenda as presented.
I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And aye. Excellent, it's unanimous, thank you. Okay, item number 7, reports, fire chief reports.
I have 2 items. First of all, if you have any questions, I have 2 items to add.
I actually didn't get a chance to pull your report today, so I'll have to do it later.
I do.
Do you have a copy of it? You
No.
can have my copy if you'd like. Except I got my little scriggly notes on it. Sorry.
Commissioner Admin?
Sure. Could you talk about in your report of your negotiations, talk about the BC attrition and the BC situation? Could you just expand on that a little bit? Tell us what's going on with the BC situation.
Sure. So as you know, we are, planning on attritioning down this next year, and in January, we will be down to 6 total operational BCs. I've been working with the union to consider reassigning the 2 operational BCs to a day shift to help with administrative work. This will accomplish a number of different things. But the biggest benefit for the shift BCs is that it'll take, one of the duties would be to manage telestaff and shift movement, which is 3+ hours a day right now. And then on the administrative side, the benefit to the organization is that we would have that person also working on policies, which we need to update. We need to update and evaluate the different policies we have, mesh them, rewrite them, edit them, and so forth. And so there's benefits there. And then this would also immediately put us down to 1 operational BC as our minimum staffing, which would test our system. As we've had multiple conversations about, we need to make sure that we're making a good decision long-term about getting down to 1 operational BC. And to be able to evaluate that, we really need to test it by actually being at 1 operational BC. So it accomplishes a number of things. There could even be financial savings, depending on what we end up with. I've been working with the union on this. They are planning on going to a vote tomorrow night at their meeting to discuss whether or not this is acceptable to them. So,
will the BCs be Monday through Friday? There'll be 2 2-day shift BCs, or will there be who will do telestaff on the weekends, for instance?
it'll be 7 days a week, working 10.5-hour shifts, aligned with the 4 platoons. One day shift BC would be AB, and then have their 5 days off or 4 days off. No, 5 days off. And then the other one would be CD. So they would be one shift, 1 BC would be aligned with A and B, the other one with C and D shifts. So there'd be good continuity and understanding of the shift dynamics and that relationship with the shift BC and working 10.5-hour days. And that's one of the things that we're negotiating right now, is what that contractual hours looks like. As it stands now, there'd be some hours owed back to the department. And so we probably to cover vacancies when they come up, when one of the day shift BCs was sick or on vacation or hopefully not hurt. Any reason for them not being off on duty would be in a vacancy that the other BC, day shift BC, could fill with some of those hours. Those are some of the things that we're in current negotiations on.
And then are we going to be capturing some metrics or somehow evaluating this for X period?
It's a priority in January to develop the benchmarks of what we're going to evaluate. We haven't done it yet. But some of these things are going to be difficult to get data for. Some of this will be anecdotal. But I'm trying to come up with some elements or factors to evaluate, especially ones that could be objectively evaluated through data, like response times, before and after. What is those response times look like? Some things like that we'll have some data to back up. Others will just be what's in the impression, or what's the, where there are near misses, where there, things like that. Again, these are all being negotiated right now, so I should have a report out, after tomorrow night, and be able to share that with you all.
Okay. And then I have one other question about your district activity report. Can you just say what's the current status with the training consortium?
The training consortium, I think it's fairly well dialed in for 2023, at least to start. East Side is exiting the consortium at the end of this year. Bothell is in for 2023. So, Chief Crone has made it, he's made it very clear that he is still pursuing trying to exit the consortium in 2024. We do not have notification of the 365-day notice. He has not taken it to the count, to my knowledge, he's not taken it to the council, to evaluate. From what I'm being told, it may not be supported at all, but in 2023, we'll have to evaluate what the future is beyond 2023. Staffing structure has been tentatively agreed to, at least. I can't speak for Bothell entirely on this. I know that at our level, at Shoreline, that we're in support of what we're looking at is 2 BCs, 3 training officers, the training MSO, some admin support. We're actually going to be adding a little bit extra support from Shoreline Administrative Assistant Kimberly Parker. And then we're also potentially looking at another training medic to help with EMT and CBT training, things like that. But that has not been developed fully yet either. So.
Okay, thanks. Those are my questions.
Anyone else for questions for the chief?
So I have 2 things to add. For yours.
Yeah, one of those. Okay.
Yes. So you may have seen, in fact, and since Commissioner Admin had brought up a question regarding they called it a north end, the north end cities, a King County CRT, a critical response team approach to mental health. It's mostly on mental health and people in crisis. Whether it's mental health or addiction or whatever. And they're pairing that up with the police response, the radar program, which is a social service oriented support response. Since your email, then Kenmore had a story yesterday or the day before recently regarding these efforts, and that they're going to be turning it on, I believe, end of January next year or first quarter next year. I think it's sometime earlier part of next year. This crisis response team will be staff. It'll be social workers, mental health professionals. They'll be responding with police, theoretically, to people in crisis. They're also trying to develop an actual facility where these people can be taken to get support and so forth. This is not completely new. There has been some of that support with the radar program previously. It is focusing mostly on the police side. I will share with you, I got a little excited in not such a great way because I got a briefing on this at the NORCOM governing board meeting, and they were talking about fire responses also. And I was like, whoa, okay, we are doing that ourselves already. Where's the efficiencies and where's the communication and crossover and so forth? And that was mostly a Kirkland approach. I immediately spoke with Shoreline, Debbie Terry, before she retired. And she assured me that it was not on the fire side, it was on the police response side. And that is the approach that the rest of the cities were taking as well, except for Kirkland. And Kirkland doesn't have an MIH program like we have. And so that's one of the reasons why they're taking that approach for some fire responses as well. We have in the past, our MIH program started off as a CMT program. And as some of you may know, it was we did have a response element to that team. What we found was that was not very efficient, not a good use of time, and didn't really pair up the response with continued support, beyond that, and that a referral program was more effective. And so that's why we switched. Our program, our team can respond if requested by a unit that's on scene, but that would be a delayed, arrival for that unit. going back to our original thing, they were being dispatched at the same time as an 8-car engine or whatever was going on the call. And so they were getting there in a fairly short amount of time. And again, that wasn't super efficient because there was a lot of calls that they weren't needed, or that, whatever. So our units still can request them to come to a scene. It's just, it's going to be delayed because they'll get on scene, assess, and then request. So there's some delay there. But what we found was that, again, our referral program is a better way of that continuity of social care that these individuals need. So that's what we have focused on. But as this came out, I did go back to Annie Drummond. She's kind of our lead in the MH program. And I asked her, I said, I want you to make sure that what we're doing is the most effective with the resources we have. And she assured me that it is. If we had more resources, then potentially we could look at, an expanded program. And we have talked about trying to get more people on board so that we can provide better coverage 7 days a week or maybe even 24/7. But at this time, we have three people in it right now. I am working with Bothell to get some more funding from the Snohomish County side of Bothell, because this is supported through King County EMS levy funding. But it's not enough. We are short, and in the past we have subsidized a bit from the our operational revenues. But I am trying to push Annie and the team to look outside the box a little bit, try to develop other revenue sources. And when I found out that there are actually more calls in the Snohomish County side than the King County side of Bothell, and we're not getting any revenue from the Snohomish County side, I was like, can we look at doing something there? So I'm trying to work on that as well. So.
Just a follow-up question, do you see this thing as a resource that our fire crews would potentially request if they had a situation that was primarily a mental health emergency, or you think that we wouldn't even get dispatched, police would just handle it and they would request this resource and not request fire or EMS crews?
That's a great question. And I don't have a lot, and that's been kind of some of my frustration, is that there has been no communication with us. There's been no integration with what we're doing. So I can't answer that entirely. I can tell you what the intent is. The intent is on the police side. So it's possible that if a 911 call came in and it was just police and there wasn't an EMS component to it, that the police and these mental health, the MHPs could respond and deal with it, and we wouldn't even know about it. But if there was injuries, like somebody was in crisis and hurts themselves or somebody else, and then we're having a joint police and fire response, then on the police side, it could be the police and these MHPs. On our side, it could be our crews and potentially even our MIH, team, potentially. So I think it's really going to be very case dependent on the incident itself and how this evolves in the future. I'm not sure. Again, I have very little, information. When I asked for some more, it was like, well, you can join our team. And I was like, no, we have our own team. I just want to try and make sure that we're not being redundant, that we're not, there's an overlap in all this and that. So,
and then there's maybe a model for how we interact with that service.
Yeah.
Commissioner, in Kirkland, that's how it functions. So mental health professional will respond with police. If there's a need for medical evaluation, they call the fire department, will come and medically evaluate and say, hey, this is totally mental health. There's no physical issue here, right? No medical issue. Then the police and the mental health professional just handle it. If there is a medical emergency or something that they could be treated at the ER for, then we will transport, usually with the assistance of police. Kirkland is also in the process, while being part of this program that already exists, of standing up an NMIH program.
Good.
So those will be working together, and I think it's just going to take time for us to kind of figure out how that, but I don't see a lot of conflict. It works pretty smoothly, kind of in a ad hoc way, right? We just kind of figure it out as needed.
Theoretically, if these are done correctly, could be really great, because it could be the synergy that could be working both from a response side and de-escalating somebody's in crisis from a police intervention, and maybe the police are even backing off and all that. And then, potentially from the referral side of what we're focusing on, that could pair up very well. Again, I don't know, how this is, because it's all new, and they're pushing forward with this, and actually, thank you, because you have quite a bit of experience on this radar program side. So that's great to hear that it's working well.
It alleviates a lot of those scenarios where the police don't know what to do with this patient. Fire doesn't know what to do with the patient, and so they just end up getting transported to the ER when they have no medical need. There's just no other choice, like, what do we do? Right, but having this program with the police has been really beneficial.
My biggest concern when I heard about this, again, I don't know everything, but my biggest concern was, is this going to remove the need for the police to even respond, on these calls? And that I was assured that is not the case, because I would hate for these people, the MHPs, to be out there without support and then potentially get hurt, or something to go sideways, and all of a sudden they don't have that backup. Sorry, did you have?
I just had a comment, and I don't know what its relevance is, but I just see this program as it continues to be maybe a little more gentle coming from the fire department versus the police department. I know there's a lot of people that have a lot of issues with the police department, unfortunately, and so I think if it could be hand in hand with the fire department, it could gentle that approach and maybe be accepted a little bit more by the public.
I think that's part of the intent here, is for sure, is to try and have a softer approach than just a police presence.
You said you had one other item.
I do. So one thing that kind of broke, kind of literally, late yesterday and today, is that there's been concerns about the Tyler CAD upgrade that we went to. I'm sure you know about this, and I'm sure you probably know about this soon. You're probably hearing about it from, we gave, let me back up and say that the ops chiefs had concerns. They had a meeting and talked about it, brought to the Zone 1 chiefs. I chair the Zone 1 chiefs right now. And so we talked about it in our meeting and gave till December 8th for a deadline for making significant, progression in addressing our issues. The issues revolve mostly around accurate and clean data and usability interface with the crews. For the departments that are accredited or looking at accreditation, the data, that is a huge deal. Shoreline's not accredited, so I need good data. I have to have confidence in the data and so forth. But it wasn't as big of a deal for me. What was as big, or maybe a bigger deal for me, was the usability of these MDC or of the platforms that we're using out on the rigs. And frankly, our hardware is not big enough for the complexity of what the CAD interface is. It's touchscreen, and it's too busy. So those were two sides of this issue, that both needed to be addressed by December 8th. The ops chiefs met earlier this week. I think it was on Monday. Was it just yesterday? They met, and maybe it was just yesterday. I think it ended last week. I think it might have been the end of last week. They met and they continue to have concerns. They do not see as much progress as they were hoping to see, and still have issues with this. They had a recommendation from that ops group which was conveyed to me late yesterday, that they are recommending that we revert back to Tritech. Yeah. Which is kind of the nuclear button. So I don't have any more information except for the phone conversation I had with the Doug McDonald, who's chairing the ops till the end of the year. And so I said, okay, I need information, report out, blah, blah, blah. In the meantime, today, I asked for a special kind of emergency meeting of the chiefs, which we're doing tomorrow afternoon, to evaluate what that looks like, what the progress has been made, et cetera, what what the recommendation that they have, get Norcom to give us their perspective as well, and then to evaluate what it looks like to revert back, which is it's likely to be training for dispatchers, CAD terminals, hardware, software support, because we let TriTech, lapse. This could be expensive, and it could be, logistically quite challenging. So before we make a decision or a recommendation on this, we need to have some more conversation about it. There is a governing board meeting this Friday, so that's why I called it for tomorrow, to be able to have a meeting and before we get to the Friday meeting, because it is on the agenda for Friday as well. I wanted to give you guys a heads up, just in case, people start talking about it, so, because it is out there a little bit.
Okay. All right.
And I am not the SME, I don't know how it is out there in the field to use. I do know the concerns about the data and all that. I have to rely on my people, the ops people, and the feedback that we're getting, saying, stop the bleeding, go a different direction.
Question is, everybody in North King County using every.
So all fire are using it, and I think most police, if not all police, are. All the Norcom agencies are, and Norcom does all police in zone 1, or I'm sorry, all fire in zone 1, and most police. There are still pockets of individual dispatch, like Redmond PD, Bothell PD. Yeah, there are some individual PD agencies out there that are still dispatching for themselves, although I've heard Norcom has got a serious inquiry from Bothell PD of joining. So, but it's to the point even that some departments, some fire departments at least, are considering whether or not they want to stay with Norcom, which would be hugely impactful, not only again logistically, but financially for the remaining partner agencies in Norcom, because that costs would, we'd lose some efficiency.
That's based on the issues with the Tyler dispatch system.
Likely. So if we deal with that, then likely, I believe, we will address enough of the concerns so that nobody feels like they need to.
Tyler reps are around trying to work on it too.
Well, when I asked for the previous meeting, I required a Tyler rep to be there, one that had high enough authority to make decisions, and not just a sales rep that was communicating. I didn't want a middle person.
Right.
And so there was a lady, I can't remember her name exactly, that showed up. She had shown up in a previous meeting just to introduce and all that. And I was assured that she was far enough up and that Tyler was listening. So I'm kind of like, okay, well, why hasn't it been addressed then? Or is this a perspective thing? Again, I don't have any more details than what I've told you. I'm waiting for a report out from Doug. We'll be calling on my way home tonight. So tomorrow might be interesting. And again, it's a pretty significant recommendation or decision.
So Chief, the major concern is coming from organizations who are accredited and need data about responses that isn't being provided by Tyler.
There's concerns from pretty much everyone, but the data side, yeah, that's mostly, Redmond and Bellevue especially, are significantly impacted by the data, because if you're accredited, then you and I don't know all the ins and outs of this even, but you have to have clean data. You have to show that clean data. That's part of that accreditation. So not having good clean data affects your ability either to get accredited or to keep your accreditation. And so so they're fairly concerned about that. But I think everybody has usability concerns, even to the point of like, here we are looking at trying to buy iPads or something to complement what is already in the rigs. And I'm like, why are we trying to scab on other hardware solutions? Why aren't they fixing, the existing hardware, the usability at least? So,
Kirkland's in the process of upgrading hardware.
TrueSense or hardware. So we have tough books and laptops in our rigs. And apparently, what I'm being told is that the screen isn't big enough to accommodate the functionality of what Tyler has in their look for the MDC. And so, you know, like they can't hit the buttons, the map doesn't expand enough, they're using their phones or they're using other devices instead of what we have been providing. And that's very frustrating for me because I'm like, if we're not providing the right tools, and that really is upsetting to me because that we need to provide the right tools. And so if we're not providing the right tools, what does that look like? Do we have to replace all our laptops, you know, with bigger laptops, or do we need to buy iPads, or do we need to buy another laptop? I mean, it gets complicated, but we need to make sure that our personnel have the tools that they need.
Yeah, just anecdotally, there are user issues. I mean, if we want to see what's going on in the field, we pull up North on radar. We don't use Tyler for that to see what calls are going on. I go on the radio a lot more than I used to.
Yeah. I mean, the two of you guys are living this.
I use my phone.
Yeah, see, and that's great that you have an option, but that's not great because that's not what we should be. Again, we should be providing what we need to our people. So
Agreed.
So that was, again, as big or a bigger issue for me, and I believe I speak for some of the other departments too, in that the data is an issue, but the usability is also an issue.
Okay, thanks, chief. Any other questions? All right, commissioner reports. No. Okay, legal counsel.
No legal counsel report today.
All right. Okay, upcoming board agendas. So we will likely need to have a special meeting late in December for any kind of last minute vouchers that come through. So I think I'm going to suggest December 20th as a potential date. That is kind of the one day that week that I'm available.
I leave town the next day, so that's perfect for me.
Okay. Commissioner Admin,
I'm available.
Is that late enough to get the vouchers in?
I think so. Yeah, I think that
The request was from Dawn to try, you know, because we were down to one meeting a month, that just to try and catch up any end of year stuff. It shouldn't be, I mean, everybody should have been, but we all know that things straggle. And so that's one of the reasons. I just want to, I believe that I'll be here. I should be at least Zoomable.
in the past, it's just about the vouchers. We open the meeting, we have public comments, take attendance, and then get the vouchers through, and then we're done. So,
The 10-minute meeting.
yeah. Okay, so special meeting on December 20th. Doesn't have to be at 5 p.m. But
That's typical though. so
yeah,
I'm good with that.
I think it was a few years ago, we did it kind of at an odd hour.
And now and then I've seen you guys have meetings at like 9 o'clock in the morning,
Right, yeah, it was like a 10 a.m. meeting.
but it's like a 15-minute meeting.
But that was
It was late, it was like the 27th to
the
28th.
only time that anybody that we could all get
Yeah.
together was a weird time, but
But at 5 p.m. on the 20th works, let's do that.
I will be on duty, so.
Okay. We only need three, right, to make this work, but if
Okay.
more the merrier.
Thank you, Don Page.
Yes. All right, and for that first meeting in January, we should add the policy 1450 discussion updates, what we want to do there, probably creating some type of a subcommittee.
Election of chair, vice chair.
Yeah. Yep. New leadership for the board.
Or continue.
Not it.
No.
I'm not even in it. I'm just kidding.
Okay, anything else?
Speaking of, I am trying to release my zone 1 chair of the Chiefs Association. I think I have somebody lined up.
Okay,
I do have a question. When do we have the, when your bill comes through for our services since you've taken over, when does that come before the board?
That would be in, I believe it was specified in the. Like after the first half taxes are due. I'll have to get back to
So
you.
that's something
Exactly.
we want to put on the agenda because we want to.
Reconciliation.
You want that on the first meeting in January?
I don't think we'll have the information by then.
Right, so let's,
I'm just trying to get.
something to keep on the radar.
Yeah. put it
Okay.
For February's. Because we definitely,
It's things are specified in the ILA. I just don't know.
the
it off the
sooner
top of my
sooner
head.
we get it and have a chance to go over it, it'll be helpful. There's some time involved with that.
Okay, seeing no further additions to January's agenda, without objection, meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Everybody have a good Christmas.
Yeah, likewise.